So I want to welcome the next moderator. She comes all the way from La France. So please welcome Josephine Gu. Please.
I have another mic? Okay. Right, cool. Hello, everyone. I'm going to welcome our special speakers today. If they want to join on stage. Do they all have a mic? One, two, okay. I have one mic for you. So for our three speakers today are coming from the UK, and they're going to tell us a bit about their experience, their entrepreneurial experience in the UK. But before we start, can you, each of you, present themselves, a bit your entrepreneurial story?
Sure. Hello? Yeah. Mohammed Rafai, I'm the co-founder of Hyperpool, London-based startup. We operate a curated marketplace that connects high-potential business talent with job opportunities globally.
Imad, do you want to, is it working? Yeah.
Hey. Hi, my name is Imad Rieshe. I've been in and then out of the startup world, so it's a kind of a different story. My background was in investment banking, and then last year I was here speaking about my startup in financial technology. We're doing kind of behavioral finance stuff, and then this year I've actually kind of moved to Facebook to be leading one of the data science teams.
Hi, my name is Jean. I started life as a doctor, as a plastic surgeon, and then I moved into technology, where I set up a company called Touch Surgery with a colleague of mine out of London.
Thank you. So there was a question earlier related to going global, and the sort of criticism that was made is people here in the MENA region just think of the MENA region and don't think about going global. Interestingly, you are sort of examples of people that didn't start here, but started in the UK. So I'd love one of you to tell us why the UK and how did you go about starting there instead of starting in Lebanon? Maybe you, Mo?
Sure. So basically, in my opinion, it depends on the startup. So it depends on the business you're building. So there are businesses that you can build from the MENA region or from Lebanon that can go global. But some businesses, if they are client-facing, and if your clients are, if the first clients you need to get are in the UK or in the States, you cannot start off from Lebanon. Now, you can come back and build a team in Lebanon. This is a good way to build a team out of here. But you cannot start off in Lebanon to build a global business and the clients are all based in the UK or the US. So for us, the problem was we started off in Dubai, actually not in Lebanon, just because I was living in Dubai. And then at some point, before actually launching the MVP, we decided that we should launch this product out of the UK because our client base was in the UK. We work with some of the big companies globally, and we need to have interactions with them, we need to meet with them, we need to directly sell to them. So we cannot be based out of Dubai and sell those clients. One day we can come back and have an office in Dubai or in Lebanon, but this is why we took that decision to actually launch out of London.
And not Dubai?
And not Dubai.
Okay. What is your story? Why did you start the startup in the UK and not in...
Well, I mean, in my case, I mean, the startup I was in, basically, it was more or less kind of Mo's rationale, which, I mean, I was doing investment banking before that, and then London is one of the hubs. It's like in constant competition with New York as being kind of the top financial hub worldwide. And since most of our clients were in the UK, it was kind of a no-brainer for us to be in the UK, plus all of our network was already also in the UK. So you need to start where you're kind of closer to your market, and this was the reason why. I mean, I was initially in the UK and kind of all of that happened, so we just kind of stayed there and started the business.
Talking about networks, how do you build a network in a new country, in the UK? If some of us in the audience here are from Lebanon and they want to build networks in the UK, how do they go about it? How do you go about it?
Have a Facebook account, right, Iman?
That's a good start. I'll give this a shot. So if you want to build your network in a place where you okay, first of all, it depends kind of why you're building this network. Like, so in our case, kind of the network that we needed were people in finance, right? Best thing is usually getting introduction. It's usually kind of leveraging your already existing networks to find people who can introduce you to people kind of who really matter to you. And like most of the people who you're interested in are usually not more kind of than two links away, like 2 hops away. So you just kind of need to be networking extensively, let people know what you're doing, and then leverage your own network.
I think you have to provide value to a network. So it's not about just going out and meeting people and saying, hi, I exist. You know, we all do that socially. The more you are interacting with people that are relevant, the more that you can have intelligent conversations, the faster your network will flourish. You know, it's often better to go to people with a question than just to go to people just for the sake of, you know, introducing yourself. I think you know, having a stronger connection with people is based on, you know, a real kind of interest in each other and what you do. So I think kind of, you know, we all have networks and we all know people and everyone has hundreds of friends on their Facebook accounts, but how many of them do you actually interact with?
You can also start from smaller communities. So we were lucky. I was lucky because I studied in the UK. So we had the London Business School network, which is a very strong network which we could tap into. But depending on what you want to do or the kind of people you want to interact with, you can always find a smaller community or smaller network you can tap into. So as an example, if you are going to do a fintech startup in the UK, you can tap into the Life network, which is the Lebanese finance executives, which is a growing community, for example. Depending on what you want to do, you can always find a smaller piece of the puzzle to connect with.
So how relevant is the Lebanese diaspora in that sense of supporting you in the UK? I know there's 17 million Lebanese outside of Lebanon. Did that help in the UK, or you don't need it, or did you interact with it?
Not actively yet, so I haven't tapped into the actual. So we meet, we have chats. It's always good, but not on a wider scale. I don't know if the guys have done anything.
I think the global diaspora is much larger. So you know, I'm very pro wider communities and wider markets, and people interacting with people who are not necessarily of the same background. You know, in our startup, you know, I'm a surgeon, but I work with people who are engineers, people from Pixar who've built great movies, people from data, and so I feel often like the least intelligent person in the room. And I think it's important that you have a wider community, and you shouldn't be really looking to, you know, connect with people just because of a like with like. You're more challenged when you meet people that aren't necessarily the most immediate people you relate to.
I mean, like, in my experience, like, we didn't kind of explicitly go and reach out to the Lebanese community. It is kind of a good catalyst when you're in the room, like, say you're meeting kind of finance professional and there's someone who's Lebanese, of course. Like, there's a common connection. You can talk business as much as you want. Sometimes there is a personal one, but we don't kind of usually go actively seeking these people to kind of start the business. As Jean said, like, you find interesting people everywhere, and using the Lebanese connection is a good thing, but you also kind of know you shouldn't limit yourself to that, right? There are a lot of kind of very intelligent people kind of who understand maybe the value of your business, not just even more than the other Lebanese people, maybe even more than you do, right? And then, like, what about this, what about that, right? And the more you diversify, the better it is.
Talking about people, you say there's talent everywhere, there's amazing people everywhere, but it seems that you went to the UK because your market was there. If the market was in the US, would you move to the US? I mean,
we're in the US
very
all the time.
flexible on location?
We're in the US all the time. In fact, I joke that I spend most of my time on a plane. There are two markets that really matter to us, which is the US market and the Chinese market. You know, being in the US, I think, is really important for any company that's trying to do anything in healthcare. Like we are, the US is a natural market to go to because it's the largest spender on healthcare. It's the place where the greatest institutions are. And so to a certain extent, I think we live in a world today where we're not really restricted by where you are. I think people can connect in so many different ways. Getting on a plane isn't difficult. So we are in the US, and I know that Ahmad was in the US not long ago.
Yeah, I was in the US not long
where
ago.
he broke his arm.
The thing is that, like, if you're following where your market is, then going to the US is not. It's not about choosing the UK or the US like as just one place. You need to find one good base of operations to start from, because you can start from two different places. But like the traveling is so easy. Like you can easily set up businesses or branches everywhere in the world, right? Like you just kind of need to go where your customers are. Just find yourself a good base which is not restricting you, and kind of opening up as many doors as possible, and where the talent or the team is. And then kind of that's just the launch pad.
I agree completely with Ahmad. So basically we had, for us, it was either London or New York. London was the obvious option because we lived in London, we know the London market, we have sort of a network already in London. But once you set up shop in London, it's easy to connect with New York, open up a branch in New York, fly to New York. John can tell you more about that. So you need to decide what are your markets, what do you want to tap into, what's the best place or the best possible place for you at this point in time to start, and then you take it from there.
So it seems that the UK has to offer something as a base. Can you tell us a bit more about what the UK has to offer compared to New York? And the second question is, it seems like connections between hubs is very important. So what would make Lebanon just a connection, direct connection to the UK? Is UK Tech Hub an element to that?
Versus New York, for me, honestly, I don't have a lot of insight into the New York ecosystem. But as I said, our decision was based on the fact that we knew London better than we know New York, and it was easier for us to set up shop in London than New York. So we went for London. The second question was on the UK Tech Hub.
What would make Lebanon connect with the UK?
I can just take a step. I mean, I'll just recycle Jean's answer like a bit earlier. Like if you want to make Lebanon as kind of part of a largest network, is you need to kind of look at what is the value that's bringing to that network, right? It's the same thing as in personal connections. Like what is the thing that Lebanon would bring to a network to be a strong participant in that network? This is kind of the kind of questions we should be asking ourselves, right? And there are a lot of things. I mean, it's not about being kind of the number one world power, right? There are things about. Again, Lebanon itself has its own sets of problems, and we were having that discussion yesterday. Sets of problems means sets of challenges, which also means like a lot of ideas and a lot of things that can be made better. And these challenges that can be solved are not only challenges that are local to Lebanon. Like you have 2 or 3 billion people who are living in places which have the same kind of challenges. If a strong community of entrepreneurs comes with a strong understanding of the problems and some solutions, it will make Lebanon also like bring something that is unique to itself, not just like a copycat of what's happening across the world. Like that's one way of kind of being a valuable player and valuable addition to a network as well.
I think the question is pointless because, to be frank, people are intelligent everywhere they are. You can be intelligent here, you can be intelligent in the US, you can be intelligent in New York, in London. There's a wide community of talent everywhere. And so all you need is inspiration, ambition, being very persistent with what you do, and wherever you are, you can achieve things. I don't think it's restricted to being in London or New York or anywhere. I think it's a pointless question.
No, but this is completely contradictory. Like you can start from anywhere. Why didn't you start from Lebanon?
I grew up in London. I went to medical school in London. I speak English only. My French isn't very good. My Arabic is awful.
But I'm not sure that like it's not contradictory. Like what I said is not contradictory to saying that there are intelligent people everywhere. But intelligent people use their intelligence in different ways depending on the context and the things they're thinking about, right? So if you grow up in a place where the kind of problems you're trying to solve, and the way your intelligence and know-how is shaped by kind of what's happening around you, then you're definitely bringing something interesting to the table. I'm not saying you're more intelligent than the other guy who's sitting next to you, but he has his own sets of experiences, and you both people being intelligent is kind of an interesting conversation. The network is much more rich, right?
I agree, but at the same time, I think, you know, we are so connected with the internet. You know, I'm sure that someone's tweeted this today and said, Sean just said this is pointless. But, you know, we're very connected. And so I think the world is very open to learning from each other through the internet, through social media. And, you know, I'd argue that people in different parts of the world have more time on their hands, you know. So
I'm not sure that kind of, the kind of experiences you end up sharing online is no substitute for kind of growing in a context where you're faced day to day with problems, right? Like you can share the outcomes of the ideas you end up coming with on the internet and the network, which is kind of really good. But is this like a substitute for the expertise that you'd have being brought up in this kind of context and solving these problems? I'm not really sure that's the case.
I don't look at it as a substitute. I look at it as something to learn. You know, as long as you're willing to learn, then you can find places to learn from. You just have to be willing to learn. You know, I think people here and people everywhere are very willing to learn. You know, and because we live in such a connected world, you can learn from almost anywhere. And you know, I'm sure you can find Imad's social profile through LinkedIn very easily, and you then know who he is. You can connect to him very quickly by pressing a button, and he's very receptive. He accepts everyone, and if you send him an email, then you know, he'll answer your questions. I don't think people should feel that they're restricted based on, you know, location or who they are or what color they are or what race they are. You know, let's not have that discussion. It's pointless. Next question.
Well, I won't ask you a question anymore. So who's the most successful out of the three of you?
You, Josephine. Do you want to tell us about your background? I learned about it yesterday evening. It was very interesting. She's very successful. Successful and the nicest of all of us.
Yeah, sure. So can you tell us a little bit more, Imad, of how you started your company and why did you stop the startup venture you were going to start or you were starting and to go to Facebook? I think it's an interesting story because I think a lot of people want to go to startups and they have no idea of what a startup is, and it feels cool, but it's actually not. I'm not saying this is your story, but I think your story needs to be heard.
No, startups are cool. It's only part of the story, though. So before starting my startup, I was already kind of in big corporate and I was in investment banking, and I didn't identify with the culture, didn't identify with the place. Came up with a couple of people I knew through various connections and started this business where we were solving a problem that was interesting to us, that was at the intersection of our different areas of expertise. And it was something that kind of really made me tick, something I was very interested in. Now, I didn't go and do a startup for the sake of doing a startup, right? Like, the startup is the vehicle to achieve a given objective that I wanted, which is kind of have an impact in my field. So I had gone through that like for 2.5 years, and then Facebook approached me with this kind of amazing opportunity of leading data science team in London. And it was like the hardest decision I ever had to take. The startup that I'm in was in a good enough shape so that the founders can just keep moving it forward. I could start participating in it kind of from an advisory board perspective. But the challenges of working in Facebook, to me, it's all about kind of the impact that you want to have and what makes you tick. There are very different challenges. In the startup we were working on, it was like we were addressing a niche market in finance where if you were to have like 20,000 paying customers, because like the sales model we had was like a very, very high price tag. It would have been like amazing. This is the objective we were going for, like 20,000 paying professional portfolio managers. In Facebook, we're solving the problem of building product where you have 1.2 billion daily users logging in and using it, right? Where every single small thing you do is going basically to change how people are using the social network. To me, that is also kind of super interesting. And to me, that's also a different way of having given impact. And also from perspective or from an angle that I haven't looked at or worked in before, which was kind of the B2C kind of wide consumer internet. So seemed like an interesting role, like a new challenge. Why not?
I wanted to hire Imad before Facebook did. He came and he met the guys at the lab, and you know, we sat down with each other, and I looked him in the eyes, and he looked me in the eyes, and I said, so what's next? And he goes, just call me anytime. And at that point, I should have just said, why don't you come work with us? But I didn't. So.
Oh, it's a connected world. You can ping me on LinkedIn. Right?
Yeah, one of the biggest regrets I have.
So you're saying also that you can start a startup and not go along with it, not raise money, and then it just close, but you can still go forward and have like, actually a failure of a startup is not a failure. It's actually a learning point.
I mean, the startup still hasn't failed, so I can't really talk about failure in the startup because they're still ongoing and they're like 30 plus employees now. I mean, I can hypothesize about kind of what it means. I mean, here's the thing. You shouldn't be afraid of failing, right? You shouldn't be afraid of failing. And it's not just about in startups, I think. Like, even when you're riding a bicycle and you fall and you break your arm, like I did, or kind of you're driving a car and then you get into accident, the first thing you want to do is like just like get in a car again, right? And then kind of not be afraid of that thing of failure. And I think in startups it's kind of the same thing. And it's also, it depends on what makes you tick. If you just want to be in a startup because, I don't know, because of the glamour of it and kind of the thing, it's, yeah, like failure is going to kind of feel very bad. If it's a vehicle for you to kind of feel that you're kind of having an impact that you want to have on the world, then kind of failure is not going to stop you, most likely. I mean, again.
To be transparent, Ahmad wasn't riding his bike at the time when he fell.
All right. Is there anything you want to tell this audience before we turn into Q&A? I feel like you're chatty, Jean.
Wait, me?
Yeah.
I don't think Mo's said enough. I think he should tell you guys more about his startup because he's doing great things.
Is there anything you want to say?
Shall we talk a bit about talent? You want to talk about talent?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us, Mo.
So no, I think there's we hear a lot about at this conference a lot. We think about the great talent in Lebanon, and definitely, I guess we all agree that there is a lot of top raw talents in Lebanon. But the thing is that for me, the human resources are split into three things: the raw talent, education, and experience or exposure to things happening. Now, we all agree that there's great raw talent. On the education point, we hear a lot about we have one of the best education systems in the world. Now, I do agree we have some top schools and top universities, but this is not for everyone in the country. So not everyone's getting exposed to this top tier education system, although we have 5, 6 great universities, 10, 15 great schools. But this is what the 5% is going into, and this is not enough to build a pipeline of talent for a country. Then we get to the third step, which is experience or exposure. Now, hopefully with time, once this ecosystem is built and when we have startups doing great things, they already are, but on a bigger level or bigger number of startups doing great things, we're going to see people getting exposed to new projects and things done in a new way. We're going to get more connected to London, New York, Silicon Valley, etc. We're going to get more access to experiences. But the issue now is that we should not, in my opinion, stop people from going to London or to San Francisco or Sylvania and tell them to stay here because they're not getting the exposure they need. They're not working on projects which are having a huge impact or on new technologies to bring them back to the ecosystem. So we should actually promote people to actually go and have this experience and exposure, even if they're top tier raw talent, and then at some point try to bring them back to get this back to the ecosystem. I don't know if the guys agree.
I think people will live wherever makes them happy. You know, so be wherever makes you happy. I don't know whether the answer to that is being here or in the US or New York or on an island somewhere. I kind of like what Rand showed us, that picture. I could live there. It would make me happy. So.
We're gonna open to Q&A. So, is there any question? Yeah, here. Of course.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. During the previous session, it was about accelerators, and they've discussed their limited access to mentorship and local skills. So the question to all of you here, as successful entrepreneurs abroad, are you willing to circulate those skills you're acquiring abroad, and are you willing to come back here and provide mentorship to local startups and local accelerators?
Well, definitely. Of course, we're willing to do that. I wouldn't use successful yet, but yeah, we'll do that, definitely. Anything we can do, we're here to, this is why we came here, to try to share our experience, and in any way we can kind of help and bring back this, I wouldn't say knowledge, this experience or exposure we got to things happening in the UK or otherwise.
Tara, you were supposed to be here. We saved you a seat. I know you've been helping out and being and advising people on things. So with people like you, who needs us? Hey, you can't follow that.
I can't follow that. No, I just want to add one thing. I think part of the thing I think it's part of the journey of kind of when you're on a journey and you want to kind of have an impact. I'm always talking about impact on one given sector, or kind of you're having positive impact on a given problem you're trying to solve. I think sharing your journey is also part of it, and I think it is as rewarding as getting there, right? And the good thing about sharing your journey is that you can still share a journey of failure, and it's still kind of a good experience for someone else. I mean, I'm thinking about better ways of kind of trying to share my experience. I don't think I have kind of this kind of huge experience. It's not like I've been kind of doing this for 40 years or so. But if anyone wants to reach out, or if you can contribute like to forums like this, that's great.
So they should reach out to you through Facebook?
Through LinkedIn, because John
is
my marketing agent right now.
You know, I learn much more from people here than I can teach them. I think you guys have a lot more to teach us. So I think it's, you know, fine. So it goes both ways. You know, I don't think we're here to preach and pretend that we know everything. We don't. And you know, a lot of people here know a lot more about different things. So people learn from each other.
Any other question? No, we don't have any question. Come on, don't be shy. Are you hungry? You're hungry.
I think they're hungry.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Please, big applause.